Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about another Blitz content creator. Now, this is not a drama video, nor is this trying to cause any type of friction. To be honest, this person doesn't like me to begin with, so making this video is not going to change their opinion of me either way. But I wanted to point out hypocrisy when I see it, so I figured I'd do that in today's video. What exactly am I talking about? Well, a content creator by the name of N90. Some of you might watch him, some of you might not. Posted a video just the other day on all tier lists are nonsense. Now, I was going to make a video on this a little bit earlier, but had some stuff go on with my dog and needed to take a couple days to refresh my memory and, deal with all of that before I was ready to make a video like this. But now that we're back, I am still going to make today's video because I think it's important to keep people in check when they make stupid content. And yeah, also I want to point out, don't go and harass this person. If you don't like their content, if you watch today's video and you're like, wow, okay, I don't like their content, just don't watch it, right? That's as simple as it is. I don't watch content creators I don't like. If you don't like them, just don't support them. That's as simple as it is. Don't go there and harass them, right? But N90 hasn't liked me for a while. I don't know exactly when he started disliking me, probably a very long time ago, but he really disliked me when Reforged information was coming out, and the reason why is because he started saying I was spreading misinformation, specifically on a video where I claimed that certain specific content creators like N90, Emunet, were flown down to Wargaming headquarters in advance, were told about Reforged, and did nothing about it. And I've actually since been confirmed in that information. I wasn't wrong at all. And if they really want to argue with me on this, hit me up in Discord and I'll show proof. But you already know that this is true because you were down there at Wargaming headquarters. And the reason why I made that video is because I find it diabolical that certain people were flown down way in advance, knew that Reforged was coming, knew that it was going to be an utter disaster, and still pretended like everything was fine. That, to me, is a little bit diabolical. Bushka, for example, when the Sheridan Missile was released, made a video saying that he absolutely hated the Sheridan Missile. He hated the entire aspect of the game. He hated the fact that Wargaming ignored his advice, and that he was done making videos for Blitz. And until recently, he didn't come back. So I like Bushka. I think he has great integrity. I think that he has very similar viewpoints on Reforged as I do, as Canavro does, as Flossie does, as Meadsy does. But I do think it's a little bit bogus when you have these content creators that are a little bit more on Wargaming side that don't actually share their opinions. In fact, I had chats with the official CC's managers, and I was told they actually really appreciated my input because instead of, being a little bit light, I said it as it is, and I will continue to do so, right? At the end of the day, I want what's best for this game. I'm going to say what is best for this game. And if CCs like N90 disagree with that, then that's their problem to deal with. At the end of the day, I am not here to make friends. I'm here to make sure that the survival of Blitz is at its finest, right? You can hate me all you want, N90, but if I stop posting videos on this game, who's going to be posting content on Blitz, right? I'm actively doing my best to carry the content creation on this game, right? So that's as simple as it is. When it comes to today's video, the reason we are here to talk about it is because, as I said, he made a tier list, which is titled All Tier Lists Are Nonsense, right? And this is clearly a direct attack at me, judging that he shows every single one of the tier lists being my videos. What a shocker. But I'm not the only person who took offense. There's another CC, Zero... I'm sorry, Zero. I never know how to pronounce your name. Zero Gavius? I'm going to say that. By the way, Zero, I know that you and I don't always have the best of terms. Well, I don't know. I don't really remember talking to him much, but I know he doesn't like me that much. But if you ever want to chill and chat with me, you can. I think that we probably have similar opinions on a lot of things. I think that a lot of people decide to just hate on me when it comes to being an official CC because that's the norm. But, I'll read some of the comments, then we'll actually watch the video a little bit. I'm not going to watch an hour-long video. We'll skip to the end. We'll take a look at his tier list, and we'll see exactly what we're working with, right? So, basically, let's watch the first 3 minutes, first of all, okay? Because he tells everybody, right? He tells everybody, if you read it, he says, I could have called it and ended the video after the first 3 minutes, explaining why tier lists don't make sense. So basically, like, every single person that says something negative, he says, like, you know, watch the first 3 minutes. The first 3 minutes of this video explain this. So let's watch the first 3 minutes. So we can't really say that I didn't listen to what he had to say. And then we'll read the comments, and we'll look at the end of the video and see where he ranked things, and then I'll share my opinions.
Out there, and
All right, here we go.
Actually, so many tier lists out there, and I think they all get something fundamentally wrong. They're all highly personal, and they don't apply to your specific playstyle. The underlying problem already begins with a measurement of strength on these tier lists. Most people don't even acknowledge that they are not really judging the tank's level. They are just simply putting the tanks up there, which they personally prefer.
That's not true. I can tell you for a fact, and anybody that actually watches my channel can confirm, most of the opinions I make are very, very tightly followed by Blitz Analysis, which is a massive API statistical website that will actually grab the statistics of tanks and it will throw them into how they perform on an average skill level. For example, the mouse is the highest win rate tank for anybody, believe it or not. Well, the higher the skill level you are, the lower the mouse's win rate is. But at the end of the day, you cannot make a tier list. I'm just going to say this right now because it's bogus whatever he's going to say, right? You cannot make a tier list for every single level of player, okay? There are skilled players. There are not skilled players. If you make a tier list for not skilled players, then you can title a video titled, "This is a noob tier list." And if you do one, I may have done one in the past. I don't remember if I did, but I may have done a noob tier list. But the point being, if you are ranking tanks for noobs, you are going to put vehicles like the Mouse, vehicles like the Minnow, vehicles like the 113 GFT all the way up at the top, and you're going to put the Leopard 1, and basically every other lightly armored vehicle at the bottom. But as skilled players, me, Peter KW, Flossie, just about any other person, Canavro, we rank tanks by how they perform against their peers. That is how we do it. I don't rank a tank that I like higher than a tank that I don't like. For example, I don't love the 215B, but I do think that it's an incredibly strong vehicle. So I ranked the FE215B in the super strong category. There are plenty of vehicles that I don't drive much that I still rank in the strong to super strong category when I do my tier lists. Because at the end of the day, I know that these vehicles are very strong, right? I don't play the E50M at all. I think it's a super cringe tank. I don't play the STB one. I don't really think the STB is a fun tank to play. If you look at my 30-day, the STB and E50M have less than 20 games combined, and they're completely overpowered right now. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be like, wow, these are overpowered tanks. We're putting them in the OP category. That's as simple as it gets. So I don't really agree with that. Most people do tier lists, yes. There is opinions in them. If somebody absolutely hates a tank and they suck in it, they're going to rank the vehicle really low. But at the end of the day, most of the tier lists that I think most people make are based less on opinion and more on how they feel those tanks perform versus the other vehicles in the meta that is currently going on.
Actually making a good playlist. First of all, we've got to be clear about this. We have to measure one of these categories here. We can measure the most fun tanks, what do you personally like, and this also depends a lot on your personal level.
Well, most fun is not a tier list, unless you're doing a tier list on tanks that you personally find the most fun. But a fun tier list is entirely objective to your opinion, so 99% of content creators will not be doing a most fun tier list that is 100% down to objective opinion. Yes, there are vehicles like the Dracula and the Smasher, and those will be fun for all groups of people. But at the end of the day, every single player has different viewpoints of fun. The FE2 and 5B183 is the most played tank of the game. I don't think it's very fun to play, but a lot of people do. So if I say the 183 is dookie balls for fun, that's not true to the average player's opinion. People have to make their own opinions based off of what evidence they have in front of them to decide whether they think a tank is fun or not. Making a tier list on what tanks I think are most fun is great. And people watching the video are there to hear my opinions. They're not here to, think, gee, the average player thinks this tank is fun. That's the whole point of a tier list.
Depends on your strengths, your individual strengths. This depends on the kind of goal that you're having. And talking about the goal, there are very different kinds of goals in this game as well. There are those people who are farming win rate. There are those people who are farming damage. There are the people who just play in platoon all the time. And for those, again, the differences or the tank strengths differ from those who play solo. And a beginner never has the same set of skills as a pro, which obviously does make a lot of sense. But also, then in that regard, you have to acknowledge that a beginner prefers a completely different set of tanks than the pro. So for the beginners, it is important what is easy to play. Here it's about armor and also whether the tanks have a higher alpha damage, meaning that you can outstrade those opponents to the front. For the pros, then, you can either think about the important aspect being versatility. So you're having good mobility, DPM, some turret armor that you can use in various different positions. Or it is about
Just want to point out, good mobility, good DPM, and turret armor that you can use in good positions is also good for beginners. In fact, I've made many videos saying vehicles like the E5 is one of the best beginner tanks in the game. The line itself is great. The E5 is one of the most accurate heavies in the game, has great overall armor and mobility and gun depression and turret armor. In general, tanks that have a lot of good traits going for them, the E50M, the M48 Patton, the E5, are going to be great for all types of players, not just beginners.
about the specific strength, like one specific characteristic that allows you to just outperform the opponent, like having an STB1, which does have 11 degrees of gun depression, and alone for that reason it is much stronger in certain situations, but you got to be sure how to use them, you got to know about that. And then for the tournaments or for the win rate players, win rate farmers, there is the durability, also one very important characteristic, especially for the tournaments. Here it's more about the pushing abilities of a tank, and therefore the hit points and reactive armor, so it's more about having something that is never really out of place. With all that in mind, it is almost impossible to create a perfect tier list. Still, I'm going to give it a try. But unlike most people, I'm not going to stick to the standard tier list, just ranking tanks from bottom to the top, but I'm going for an alignment chart to rank the tanks from the worst to the best, and also the ease of playing them. So that will just give us a chart that is a bit more complex then, but hopefully allowing you to pick a tank a lot more carefully.
So there you go. We watched his 3-minute introduction, and now that we've done that, he can't say that we've ignored what he had to say, and we can actually look at his tier list. So, yeah, what am I looking at? Like, I understand it, right? You got strong at the top, weak at the bottom, and then you've got easy and hard to play. But, like, this is just such a mess. I'm sorry. Pretend I'm a new player. I'm a 40%er, and I'm looking at this. This is just a massive pile of tanks stacked upon each other. Bro, the VZ is literally behind, like, 8 tanks. I don't even know, you missed a couple tanks as well. People said in the comments, like the Lion, and maybe there was another tank you missed as well. But, like, this is a disaster, okay? I don't even know what that tank is there. I would have to scroll back into the video and find what that tank is that you've put there, because you've completely covered it. Your forehead's blocking certain vehicles. And sure, I guess you could say, well, you should watch the video and see where I've placed them. But you already know as a content creator that people aren't going to sit and watch an hour and 13-minute video. And if you expect them to do that, then I don't know what to tell you. You shouldn't, right? When I make my tier list, at the end, I always zoom out so people can see the whole thing and they can pause it there. Sure, people can listen to my opinions on each individual tank if they want. People timestamp it and I put it in the video, which is great. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to force people to watch my entire video to see where I've ranked a vehicle. It's almost impossible to look at this list without, doing that, because half of these vehicles are covered. Pretend you're a beginner. You don't know what half of these tanks are unless you see the name where you get them. This is a mess. I'm going to be entirely honest right there. This is a mess, okay? And then, your whole argument to why my tier lists and why other content creators' tier lists are useless is because we use opinions and you don't want to use opinions. You want to use fact, right? You want to showcase why certain tanks are hard to play and why others are easy. So let's go through the list here. And I'm a player who has 100,000 battles. I'm every month ranked within the top 10 of my server. And I've played on the European server, I've played on the Asia server, I have arguably more time and experience than just about any other player in this game. I've also played competitively, I've ranked top 7, I have professional orange, I have the pro camo, I have the pro background. I am arguably the most well-rounded player when it comes to servers, opinions, and overall experience in this game. So let's see, right? Let's pretend you're an average player. Let's see where we've ranked things. Well, already, as I mentioned, the mouse is the highest win rate tank in Blitz, okay? Like, this is a fact. If you go to Blitz Analysis, right, you can see the website right here, Blitz Analysis. You can go to Blitz Update, the latest update, Tier 10, okay? We do this. You will see the highest win rate vehicle is the mouse. So already your tier list is completely based off of opinion and not actual fact. If you wanted to make a tier list based off of statistics, then what you would do is you would look at this number here and you would say, okay, look at this. We can see the highest win rate vehicles, the mouse, the Minnow, the 113 GFT, and the Hovry. These are all the highest win rate tanks for 0 to 45% players. So based off of that very basic knowledge, the Hovry, the 113 GFT, the Minnow, and the mouse should all be all the way in the far corner. So we do have the Minnow. Where's the Hovry? Oh, yeah, in the middle. So you're saying the Hori is a challenging, or what you're saying is that the Hori is a decently mediocre level of skill, right? You're putting the Hori at the same level as the 5A and the TVP and the Bastion. What? The Hori is literally ranked on statistics as the easiest tank to play in the game, right? The Badger, IS-7, E100, the Foch. By that knowledge, all of these tanks should be right here, but they're not. Instead, you've put the 116 F3 and the Sheridan. Don't get me wrong, the Sheridan is an easy tank to play for a skilled player. But guess what? You have been hypocritical to your own argument. You said that people place tanks where they think they're strong. Well, guess what? Believe it or not, the Sheridan is one of the worst performing tanks in the game. If you actually scroll down on the list here to, the lowest relative win rate vehicles, look at this. Bastion, Sheridan. These two tanks are in the bottom of the list. The Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is at the bottom. If you look at, super low win rate players, 0 to 45%ers, Leopard, 1-2-1, 2-5E, Bat, Chat, Sheridan. So based off of this knowledge, your tier list, which is not based off opinion, the Sheridan should not be an easy to play. It should be all the way over in hard. Like, this, why is the 4202 on the easier side? It's a Hesh firing vehicle. Why is the 132-1 on the easy side? It is an incredibly challenging vehicle to play, right? Some of them I agree with, right? I don't have a problem with the Super Conquer. Super Conch should be all the way over here. But like 114 SP2, 116 F3, bro, the 116 F3 is legitimately the biggest pile of dog turds. I'm not the only person that thinks this, and it's like, it is not a good tank. The gun is incredibly inaccurate. It has absolutely zero armor. It's one of the most unenjoyable tanks I've ever driven, and you've put it in easy, and not even in the weak category. You're ranking a 268 and a 57 heavy weaker and a 50B on the same level as a 116 F3, arguably one of the worst performing tanks in the game. Like, the point being, when you attack every other content creator and claim that your tier list is superior, and then proceed to make opinions which are objectively wrong when you simply just look at statistics, what are we doing here? Like, what are we proving to anybody? Like, I don't understand it, right? This tier list does not help anyone. Pretend you're a brand new player. Gee, I should grind the BZ75, an HE firing heavy, which has no armor and sacrifices almost everything for the gun. I don't understand that. I really don't. The VK72 is harder to play. Wait, let me get this correct, N90. You're saying that an IS-7 is harder to play than a 4202, a WZ-132-1, a Caro. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, the Sheridan, BZ-75. I just personally, I don't understand it. I don't get where you came up with these ideas. Vehicles like the Bastion, first of all, should be in strong. It's one of the stronger light tanks in the game. It is still an absolute unit in its performance and overall capabilities. This tank should be in like all the way up in the strong category. The 113, it's an all right tank. Why is the 113 all the way up here though? Like, it should be middle of the road. CS63, it's a pretty average tank, right? It's all right. I know Peter KEKW loves it, but even Peter would agree. If you were to rank it amongst all the other tier 10s for the average player, it would be more like this area in terms of skill, and it would probably be middle of the road in terms of its overall capabilities. And I get it, right? You've got the 105 here with the Bastion, and then you have like the you've got the 4-shot over here. But like, at the end of the day, this is a completely opinionated list. And it is so much more complicated than most of the tier lists that other people make. This is just unnecessary, and you're attacking other people in the process of it, right? Like, I'm not the only one that thinks this. Anybody that looks at the tier list, agreed, right? The most liked comment, the moment you put the 132 on the easy side, I was like, okay, the list is done. He replied, I've often heard from others of a lower level, they prefer it for the alpha damage. But just look at the stats. All you have to do is look at the bottom performing vehicles and see where these vehicles rank. The 113 which you ranked as like an incredibly strong vehicle, is one of the worst performing vehicles for unskilled players. Like it's not that hard to look at these statistics, and that's one of the major things I do when I do a tier list is I not only base my opinions off of what I have personally experienced when driving these vehicles, but I also base them off of the overall statistics that vehicles have, right? I don't love the mouse, but I know that the mouse is a pretty good performer, and I make sure to say that. If you watch my tier list, I literally say the mouse is the highest win rate tank for non-skilled players. The higher the skill level you go, the worse you do in the mouse. And I make sure to clarify that and why I position the tank there, right? So, here we have another one. All tier lists are nonsense, so bro is the only correct person alive. And then he says, well, at least I admit my tier list isn't much better than the others, and I try to take into consideration that people aren't judging from the same point of view as myself. Maybe, but that still doesn't really mean anything when you actually look at where you rank these vehicles. Zero is a content creator who I know isn't the biggest fan of me. And hey, if you ever want to talk to me, a lot of people, especially other content creators, don't really like me until they actually have a conversation with me. So if you want to make opinions and you want to say, oh, you don't like me as a person, maybe get to know me as a person and don't base me off of the content that I've posted on a YouTube platform. But, if we read his comment, I have to fully agree with what he says. I have to comment on this one. I get tier lists are always a bit subjective, but calling all tier list nonsense is a pretty lazy take. I've played at a fairly high level for quite a while, and I try to base my rankings on both performance data and practical experience, not just bias, which is exactly what I agree with as well. Saying that all tier lists are nonsense feels a bit unfair, especially when I aim to be as objective and helpful as possible for the community. We might have different opinions, but this doesn't mean that other creators' lists are wrong by default. You've close to 200k battles doesn't ultimately make you the father of all Blitz knowledge with the privilege of trashing other creators' work. And I should also add to that, just because you have 200k battles does not mean you're an exceptionally good player. I mean, I've seen players, TT man, for anybody that plays on the NA server knows that guy's got over 300k battles. Guess what? He's a 40%er. Just because you have a lot of games doesn't mean you've learned every single thing you could, right? I would be willing to argue that I am a statistically superior player to N90, and I'm not here to brush ego, but it's the fact that you can't just say, oh, I have a lot of battles, so therefore my opinions are more important. Anybody that is able to perform above 3,000 average damage with a decent win rate can make a good tier list. That's as simple as it is. Certain tanks are super, super skill performance-wise, right? I don't know where the heck you put the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, right? This one I get, right? It's a very hard tank. It's a decent vehicle. But, it's all subjective at the end of the day. So if we continue reading the comment, it says, and then while other all tier lists are nonsense, you gather all tanks and put them around the place, so the final tier list, rather mess list, is nothing but chaos. Maybe try understanding the reasoning before dismissing somebody else's work. I'm 100% sure that some of my tier lists were more helpful to some people than whatever this mess of yours is. I like the out-of-the-box tier list idea, though, but I got killed by terrible offensive titling to all other creators out there, and you could have thought deeper when it comes to comparing tanks and their difficulties. Sometimes it simply doesn't make much sense when you look at the list without listening to your arguments. And his reply was, I could have called an end to the video after the first 3 minutes of explaining why tier lists don't make sense, especially on only one access. If you've seen that part, then it should be kind of obvious that the rest should be taken with a grain of salt, just being accurate as any other list. Yeah, but you didn't really say that. I mean, you knew what you were doing when you titled the video. If I title my video something like this, guess what, bro? You're going to cry about it in the CC chat, and you're going to say, how dare he ridicule my tier list? How dare he do that? But when you do it, it's fine. What's the double action here? There's a lot of videos that I've posted that I guarantee content creators, especially like N90, don't agree with. But if he does the same thing, then I guess it's fine. Point being, you can't make a tier list without putting opinions in it. And this is arguably worse. I really don't understand. If I were to show this to anybody, I don't really think they'd understand what the heck they're looking at. I'm going to be entirely honest. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I get it, right? But the fact that I have to use brain cells to actually figure out what this is ranking versus, just do Droodle's tier list, it's just the reason tier lists are made the way they are is because they are easy to read, right? If I look at a tier list here, okay, there you go, super strong. Let's see what I put in the OP category. There you go. So in my OP category, I put the Sheridan. And I put the Patton, the Yo, the 57, the Concept. Okay, so I put a lot of vehicles in the OP category. But if you actually look at the vehicles I put in the OP category, and then you look at how they perform for skilled players, you will see that most of these vehicles are doing very, very well for skilled players, right? Very, very well for skilled players. I'm not here to say that you can't make something that features your own opinions. And I'm not here to dismiss you as a content creator. But what I am here to say is that you can't just go guns blazing and say that, especially my content, which you clearly showed in the beginning as a direct attack, you can't just say that, oh, my tier lists are nonsense and that everything I say is bogus and that here's your amazing tier list, and then you proceed to literally ignore basic statistics and just flat out use your opinions. There is no such thing. If you want to make a tier list that doesn't have opinions, then simply get statistics out and do it that way. You cannot make a tier list without opinions. At the end of the day, people go to my channel and watch my tier list because they want to hear my opinions, right? That's as simple as it is. I watch a Markiplier video because I like Markiplier as a content creator. If a different content creator makes a similar Markiplier does a lot of FNAF videos. I only watch Mark's though. If Jacksepticeye does a FNAF video, guess what? I'm not watching his. You know why? Because I like Markiplier as a content creator. People watch my tier lists because they like my opinions and they want to see how I rank the vehicles. And that is how tier lists are. They are not only watching them to see where vehicles are ranked, but they are also watching them to see how they agree or disagree with the opinions that the content creator has to make. That is as simple as it is. How you miss the basic fundamentals of how a tier list works, I don't know. I don't disagree with how you decided to rank it. I do think the idea is cool on how you decided to do it, with the strong, the weak. It's not a bad idea. But the problem is that you made it a mess, you didn't have enough room, and the opinions you made were bad. That's as simple as it is. But you guys can let me know in the comments what you think, right? If I get attacked, I think I at least have the right to defend myself. And it's not even really a defense. I don't know what to say. And I'm not the only one that felt like this. I literally got messaged by other CCs who told me that they don't agree with the way that he's attacking us. And yeah, so, oh well. You can let me know what you guys think in the comments. Bye-bye.